G'day viewers, Namaste, Namaskar and Vanakkam. This is a video series aimed at Indian migrants, and through this video series we are aiming to achieve two things. One is make you learn, meaning learning new facts, new information about sexuality, and also make you unlearn some long held opinions and thoughts about sexuality. So bringing learning and unlearning together, we aim to improve your sexual health literacy. The next topic we are going to look is sexual consent. What is sexual consent is a very important topic because it has got legal and emotional implications. Now, consent is about agreeing to or giving permission to someone to engage in a sexual activity. Now, sexual activity here refers not just to intercourse, and this is something often gets misunderstood. Oh, I didn't have intercourse, so that is not sex, I didn't bother about consent. Whereas when we say sexual activity, that could be anything from touching, kissing, foreplay, intercourse, the whole suite. Okay, but let's step slightly away from sex for a moment and look into sexuality and boil down to intimacy. And consent is also important for intimacy because you might consider that, oh, I didn't see that as sex, I just touched and sort of tapped her, so I didn't think that to be sexual, but it can be perceived by the other person as sexual. So that's where sexual consent is very important, and as I said, it's not just for sexual intercourse, it's for anything to do with sex and intimacy, and it has serious legal implications. And not only that, it has personal and partner related emotional implications. Why is consent important? I think I've already addressed that in a way, but I would like to reiterate, consent is very important for two purposes. One is legal implications, and that involves when you're in workplace and if you're trying to involve in any form of sexual activity. So it has got implications at a legal level, but then you're also risking your career, your life, your family. So there's a lot of consequences. Not only that, at a personal level, if you engage in a non-consensual sexual encounter, and then if the nasty things happen afterwards, the consequence can make you feel very bad about that whole experience. And for the partner involved as well could have a similar feelings, but it doesn't stop there. It can have implications in the overall relationship forming afterwards and the level of trust they can have in somebody. And it challenges their own sexuality. It challenges their ability to trust somebody. So therefore, engaging in any form of sexual activity or any form of intimate activities without due consent can have serious consequences. Things to do and don't do in terms of giving and receiving consent. I think the most important thing is to unlearn few things that we all have grown up with. Say, for example, taking silence as a crude indicator for yes. And this is something very cultural. We used to say, if nothing is said, take it for yes, which is not true. Silence could be for many reasons. The partner or the person who's about to give consent might be confused or may not find the right word to say no, or might be threatened to say no. So they are still thinking. So we cannot capitalize that thinking pause, quote unquote silence, as a form of consent. And the best thing to do is ask about it. Okay? And whatever the language that both of the persons involved can have a common language and use it efficiently to seek that consent verbally. But also there are non-verbal cues that you can look into. If a person is pushing away, or if they are keeping their body very tight, and if they're holding their breath, or if they're or holding hands very tightly. So these are all some indicators that the other person is actually not enjoying what is happening. But to cut short all of this, the best thing is to ask about it. And explicitly asking for consent is very important. Does the process of consent make sex less enjoyable? Well, that is how it is often portrayed. Say, for example, you're in the heat of the moment. Do I really want to sort of go through all these questions and ask for permission, or in what way it's going to be fun? That is a notion that has to be challenged. What if you engage in the heat of the moment, but then the consequences are worse? That you have to risk your life or your career or your family, whatever that is. So then you need to be able to balance it. So rather seeing it as less enjoyable, I would encourage to see it having consent, explicit consent, to be more responsible. So rather seeing less enjoyable, it's important to see it as more responsible, and consent doesn't have to kill your fun. You can incorporate that and make sure that the person is fully informed. And if there is full consent, then actually you have the ability to enjoy sex without any fear of consequences. So it's actually the other way around. Consequences of engaging in sex with someone who hasn't given consent. The implications are manifold. One is the legal implications, and depending on the state where you are living, in New South Wales, for example, it's 16 years. So then if you're engaging with underage person, you're definitely setting yourself for some very difficult legal challenge. And it's not just about the age, it's about the ability and capacity to give consent. So don't blindly go by the age. It needs to be explicit consent. And if they are not underage, but still they haven't given consent, and if you are engaging in sex, then you're risking your career, you're risking your family. So there are very many consequences, and there are also emotional consequences that you regret for your act, you feel bad about it, you feel dirty about it, and then there is a fear of whether I got infection, whether there's going to be some legal consequences. So all of this fear is going to be mounting. And not only that, when you're engaging in sex without due consent, then you're actually breaching the other person's trust, and you're actually you're not treating that person in a responsible way, and that can kill their ability to trust anyone after that. So there's a lot of implications from not just legal but from emotional level as well.